Hi. Woo! Wow, San Diego, wow. Thank you. Wow. Well, hopefully nobody has COVID on their hands, okay? All right, hey everyone, meet Kevin here. My name is Kevin Paffrath, and I'm running for governor to replace Gavin Newsom. When I announced my candidacy, I knew I had to hold a rally here in San Diego. 70 miles of the most beautiful beaches, attractions, downtown San Diego, and the San Diego Padres. Some fans in here, okay. Now I want you to know, and you've been good about this so far, but this is an audience participation rally. So forget smashing the like button. We need claps. Ah. And if you do really well, then the best highlights get to go on YouTube. So if you hear something you like, you clap. If you hear something you don't like, clap anyway. Now, San Diego is amazing, but we've got some issues. We're going to talk about issues, and we're going to talk about solutions here, because that's what I like to do. We talk about the problem, then we talk about the solutions. In just 2019, 2020, under the last year of your prior mayor, and under the leadership of Governor Gavin Newsom, homelessness doubled in San Diego. But it's not just San Diego. California, one of the most beautiful, most traveled states in the country, is having the same problems. But the good news is, I know Californians together are more capable than any other state in this country. We've got the resources, the intelligence, and the spirit to solve our problems. We've also got the money to solve our problems. We can solve any problem that we face. Unfortunately, we've just lost our edge. And my goal is to bring us back on course. You know what my dream is? People always ask me this. They're like, hey, Kevin, what's your dream? What's your vision? Why do you wake up and do this stuff every day? Why? Well, my family is German. They work very hard. And know this, California is the 5th largest economy in the world. Well, guess who's number 4? It's Germany. Deutschland. And under my leadership, I will make California the 4th largest economy in the world so I can finally kick the Germans' butts. So we got a lot of similar problems here throughout California. You already know a lot about them. Homelessness, taxation, traffic, housing, schooling, policing. This is a massive human problems we've got. Sadly, a lot of these problems, in fact, almost all of them, are made worse by broken politics and policies that we have in California. Now, let me ask you, in California in the last 24 years, has homelessness gotten better or has it gotten worse? In the last 24 years in California, has crime gotten better or worse? And in the last 24 years in California, has red tape, bureaucracy, and taxation in our lives gotten better or worse? Well, guess who's been in leadership in California for the last 24 years? Gavin Newsom. And that's why it's time to end his reign. See, part of the problem is, in California, we have governments that are obsessed with 5-year plans. Consider one that San Francisco has. They have a 5-year plan to provide 1 tent to each homeless person at a cost of $5,000 a month. Folks, would you be homeless with $60,000 a year in your pocket? Come on, it's broken. It doesn't make sense. And now suddenly, right before an election, Governor Gavin Newsom is getting recalled, and Newsom's announced a bunch of new 5-year plans. But what I want to know is, where were these 5-year plans 3 years ago? Or 24 years ago? So far, in the last 24 years, all we've gotten is clickbait. It's time to end that. Now, at the same time, my friends and contractors, many of you have the same issue, I've talked to many of you, are leaving California. Many people are leaving California. Oppressive business regulations, too many taxes. People say, Texas is better, Florida is better. So even our truckers are losing their ability to compete, which leads to more expensive gas in California. We've got the most expensive gas right now that we've had in the last 7 years in the state. Businesses are leaving. I have to wait 6 weeks to get a ceiling fan permit, for a ceiling fan, 6 weeks. Why is Governor Gavin Newsom failing our state? And then how can we make it better? And that's what we're going to talk about, problems and solutions. And so in the last 24 years, we already know, we answered the question, traffic, homelessness, taxation have all gotten worse. And I want you to know that if Gavin Newsom, or ask yourself this, answer this maybe, if Gavin Newsom is re-elected to finish his last 1 year of his term here, do you think any of the issues we listed are going to get better? No. And this is why this is an opportunity for change. See, Governor Gavin Newsom says our population isn't declining fast. It's not that big of a deal. No worries, he says. In fact, he was quoted, you can Google this, saying, I don't mind if Tesla leaves, he says. Well, Tesla wasn't bluffing. They're building their next facility in Austin, Texas. Tesla's Shanghai facility puts our Fremont facility to shame. It's no surprise. China's kicking our butts. Texas is doing it. Florida's doing it. Vegas is doing it. At the same time, we just lost a representative in Congress. But apparently the population declining isn't a big deal, he says. Gavin Newsom says it's not a big deal. Folks, we've lost 2.3 million taxpayers in just the last 10 years. And that's a rate that's accelerating because of COVID. COVID is making this decline worse. People realize they don't have to live in California. They choose to live in California. But lately, they've been choosing to leave. And so here's the problem with what Gavin Newsom tells us. He says, population decline isn't that bad. You know why he says that? He says that because children and students come here. Children are born here, and students come here. But see, the thing is, children and students, they take from the economy. It's not until they're 18 that they give back to the economy. And the people who are leaving are the people contributing to the economy, the adults and the people over 18. So when you actually look at the numbers, you start realizing we're going to have a lot of problems in California that are just going to get worse and worse under the current leadership that we have. Consider this. An architect who leaves. Sometimes I hear folks say, well, we want less population anyway. Really? If an architect leaves our state, guess who's hurt? It's our restaurants, our dry cleaners, our farmers markets, our doctors, our dentists. They all end up with one less customer. See, in Econ 101, which I don't think Governor Newsom paid much attention to, there's something called the multiplier effect. And that's in economics called the velocity of money. Every dollar that's spent circulates the economy 5 to 6 times. We know this. $1 creates lots of jobs and profits. When people leave, we don't just lose $1. We lose all of those $5 to $6. Companies are leaving. Oracle, Hewlett-Packard, Coinbase, Amazing Magnets. We saw Tesla, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan. They're all leaving. So let me ask you something. I want to know from you. Do we want a worse economy or a stronger economy? That's what I thought. We don't want a clickbait economy. We want a real economy and a stronger economy. Here's some clickbait for you. Our current governor tells us that we have a $78 billion surplus. He doesn't tell you that more than half of that is federal money that's going to our schools, and it's going to our schools anyway, whether or not he's around. So that means we don't really have a $78 billion surplus. We have a 30-something billion dollar surplus. But the sad thing is, because there's a recall election coming up, Governor Gavin Newsom has gone on a little bit of a spending spree, doing things like forgiving traffic tickets. And instead of having a 30-something billion dollar surplus, we're actually going $12 billion more into debt. Folks, if we have a surplus, should we be going into debt? Doesn't make sense. So how about, instead of a governor who's trying to buy votes, we talk about real issues, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and we solve our state. Consider this. At the peak of COVID, during which one-third of California's restaurants went bankrupt. Many families struggled with their children not being able to go to childcare or go to schooling. A lot of lockdowns, a lot of students lost a year of schooling. Many of us were forced to stay locked down or keep our businesses closed. But guess what? At the same time, Governor Gavin Newsom got to do. He got to send his children to a private school that was open and go dining with lobbyists at the French Laundry. He didn't even bring a mask. At the same time, Governor Newsom made more money from his hospitality business in 2020 than he has ever had before, while at the same time 1/3 of California businesses are going bankrupt. Folks, is that right? No. It seems a little unjust to me. Should people who go into politics be getting into politics to make things more convenient for themselves, or should they be helping the California people? The people, not themselves. This is par for the course with Gavin Newsom, folks. We already know this. We know he believes the rules are for thee and not for me. Why? Because right now, I can't even make this stuff up. Governor Gavin Newsom is suing his own administration. He's suing his own administration because he missed a deadline in a law that he himself signed into law. He is now claiming that the law he signed into law is unconstitutional. And he wants special treatment because he missed the deadline. His argument is, oh, well, I just want to be the same as all the other candidates, even though he missed the deadline in his own law. Now, maybe that'd be fair. I mean, it sounds fair. I mean, well, all candidates should be treated equal, right? Well, get this. California's campaign finance law says that I can raise $32,400 per individual donor. The governor can raise unlimited amounts of money. That doesn't sound fair. In fact, you know what else doesn't sound fair? Is 1/3 of our businesses going bankrupt while at the same time Netflix is open, filming any videos they want because they got a special exception from Governor Gavin Newsom. And surprise, surprise, with no campaign finance contribution limits, there's no $32,400 donation limit for Governor Gavin Newsom. One person gave him $3 million, and that person was the co-CEO of Netflix. $3 million donation from the co-CEO of Netflix. But now Governor Gavin Newsom is claiming his own laws are unconstitutional because things aren't fair, because he missed his own deadline. This is the kind of governor we have right now. It's not fair. What about all the family businesses that were shut down? Or the disproportionate amount of Hispanic-owned restaurants that went bankrupt because of Governor Gavin Newsom's policies? Folks, what I just described to you, does that sound fair? No. I don't even want to know what Governor Newsom plans for COVID 2.0. I'll tell you what I would do. No lockdowns. No more lockdowns. Vaccines are a choice. And we actually have proper education that ventilation and HEPA filtration helps prevent COVID. We don't need lockdowns. See, folks, I've just lost faith in this governor. The other day, Governor Gavin Newsom tweeted, and usually I'm one of his first replies, and it doesn't say first, I'm trolling him, okay? So anyway, the governor tweeted that because California is roaring back, we can forgive $5.2 billion of rent. Well, that sounds great. $5.2 billion of rent forgiveness, that's a lot of money. But he didn't tell you that $2.6 billion of that came from Donald Trump. When Donald Trump signed the $600 stimulus check, $2.6 billion came to California for rent relief in December. Did Governor Gavin Newsom tell you that Donald Trump gave him $2.6 billion for rent relief? Exactly. I'm going to tell you. But what about the other money? I said $5.2 billion. Well, another $2.2 billion came from Joe Biden with the $1,400 stimulus check. So $4.8 billion for this California roaring back rent relief money that we all of a sudden have. $4.8 billion, over 92% of the money actually came from the federal government, not from Gavin Newsom. We are roaring back not because of Gavin Newsom. We are roaring back in spite of Gavin Newsom. But the governor didn't tell us that. And here's what's worse. And I want to ask you, does this sound fair? Of that $4.8 billion that we've had since December and February. $5.2 billion total. California's contributing a tiny little bit. How much of that $5.2 billion do you think has gone out to tenants? Folks, less than 2.3%. Let me ask you something. If we're in an emergency, a rent and eviction crisis, which they keep kicking the can down the road on the eviction moratorium because they can't figure their act out, get this. Yeah? If we're in an emergency and people are suffering, I want to ask you, should people have to wait 12 months, which is probably what's going to take? It's already been 7 months, and they're now estimating it's going to take 12 months to get this money out the door. Should people have to wait 12 months for rent relief? No. That was given to them by the federal government since December. It's ridiculous. Imagine I make a video going, stimulus check passed, you'll get it in 12 months. There'd be a lot more riots. Folks, I believe that we should do everything possible to help Californians. We should stop at nothing. I don't care if that means we have to use blockchain to send money if it's cheaper, faster, and more efficient. We stop at nothing to solve the problems that we have in our state. But the governor is too afraid of change. So instead of change, he's drowning us in more problems, which is kind of ironic because we're in a drought, right? Did you just get asked to conserve water too? Did you see that? No, 15% conserve water, don't have enough water? At the same time, our governor is squandering money on things like forgiving traffic tickets right before a recall election. The governor apparently is blind to the fact that we could build a water aqueduct from Los Angeles to Boston. States could hook up to this along the way for $5.2 billion, which is a fraction of the supposed surplus that we had, which just went out the door to buy votes. And then we could have cheaper and cleaner water, and as much of it that we need. I was just in Fresno. They are bleeding farms dry in Fresno to send water down south. California won't be the agricultural capital of the world anymore. This keeps happening. Question for you. Should the 5th largest economy in the world prioritize having enough water in our state? Yes. Should it be the governor's responsibility to fix the water shortage? Yes. I will fix the water shortage. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I've been a real estate broker, financial educator, investor. My wife, Lauren, shout out to Lauren over there. Meet Lauren. Hey, Gabe, can we get pictures of these beautiful people, not from a mile away, please? Get in there and get some beautiful photos of these people. Now look, folks, as property managers, Lauren does our property management. Every month we have to watch every nickel and dime. We have to monitor our expenses, and we have to make sure we're as efficient as possible. We have beautiful, well-maintained properties. We've never had an eviction, and when there are problems, we work with our tenants. If there's a problem, we find a solution, we make it happen. We don't just ignore our problems, we solve things. Now, I know running a government is different than running a business, but let me ask you, is there anyone who's going to outwork me in fixing California? Folks, when California is led by me, we will have affordable housing, we will have clean and safe streets, we will have a low crime, we will have no more homeless crisis, and not to mention, we'll be able to continue enjoying the best climate in the world because we won't have to leave. Now, I know this might cause some feathers to get ruffled, but I want everybody to be clear in this recall election. Yes, I am running as a Democrat, but I am bringing big and bold solutions. I realize, I'm a realist, I think you know this, about real solutions. What's the reality? The reality is, if a Republican governor gets elected, and they have a one-year term to prove themselves, which is all you get like a one-year free trial, which is actually how all politics, quite frankly, should be. Shouldn't politicians have a one-year trial before we have another election? But if a Republican governor gets in, I realize the leadership in California is at, in my opinion, a level of pettiness that there will be nothing done. That's true. Folks, you think Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell get along? So you think Democrats in California who have a super majority are somehow going to work with a Republican governor? It's not going to happen. Caitlyn Jenner tweeted, "I'm a veto everything the Democrats do." Caitlyn Jenner, do you know what a super majority means? It means it's veto proof. It means you have no power. So folks, look, I've been a registered Democrat since I'm 18, but I think you know I'm not far left, I'm not far right, I'm just straight down the middle. I'm about solutions, and I believe I'm not running as a Democrat or Republican, I am running as a Californian to solve our problems. And this recall election is crucial because it's our best chance to get an upset and vote out our current governor, to vote for a new leader, to vote for new change. This is why I need your vote. Now we're going to talk about solutions, but I want to ask you, can I count on you to vote yes on recall and yes on Meet Kevin Paffrath for governor? Yeah! We got to get that weenie baby out. All right, let's talk about solutions. Solution number one, tell me how this sounds. No homeless on our streets in 60 days. Now, we got to solve homelessness. It takes time to solve homelessness. We're not going to end homelessness in 60 days, but nobody's going to be on our streets anymore, leading to unsafety or lack of safety, needles, poo, pee in our streets, leading people not to come visit California anymore. That ends after 60 days. We're going to do this by tasking our National Guard with providing a service for Californians. We're going to compassionately serve our homeless community. We're going to build trust with our homeless community so they actually believe their government is actually going to help them again. But on day one, we will be everywhere homeless are, providing food, bathrooms, and clean showers for every homeless person on the streets of California. On day one, we're also going to begin construction of 80 new emergency facilities. So that way there's no more excuse. There's no living on our streets because why? We have 80 emergency facilities able to house 2,000 individuals each. That's about the size of a high school. And each of those facilities will include services for mental health, detox, education, food, and cleanliness, and medical support. Because guess what? That's what all Californians deserve. Let me ask you this, okay? Just picture this for a moment. Do you think a homeless person with mental health issues, which by the way, 70% of people who become homeless economically, and then they end up with mental health problems and substance abuse problems. But do you think a homeless person with mental health and substance abuse problems, who hasn't had a shower in 3 weeks and has no insurance card, is going to be able to call an Uber to drive them to a doctor, get a referral to a mental health professional and a therapist, and somebody who's actually going to be willing to take care of them to help them solve their problem week after week? Do you think a homeless person in that situation is actually going to be able to get help? It's ridiculous. San Francisco spending $5,000 a month per homeless person on a tent. And Los Angeles thinks it's a good idea to just hand out cell phones to people. Come on, folks. So it's broken, all right. All right, look. When we have centralized support for people, we can actually solve the things that cause homelessness. But it's not just a matter of housing people and providing those solutions for the people who are homeless now. We can actually prevent homelessness in the future. So first, after 60 days, nobody's going to be on our streets anymore. We're going to have our facilities. Nobody's going to be dying on our streets anymore. Consider this, just a little bit of background. We have a gun violence epidemic in California. Things have gotten worse, which is weird because gun control has apparently gotten more stringent, yet gun violence has gotten worse. Surprise, surprise, criminals aren't using the California rostered guns or California compliant weapons, gee. But guess what? And this is a travesty, more homeless people die on our streets than people die of gun violence, yet we also have a gun violence epidemic. That means a lot of homeless people are dying on our streets. They're not living on our streets, they're dying on our streets. Should people be dying on the streets in the 5th largest economy in the world? No. Folks, with me as your governor, people stop dying on the streets, and within 60 days, nobody's living on our streets anymore because they're not living on our streets, they're dying on our streets. No one lives on our streets after 60 days. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to massively reduce crime through community-style policing and integration with our future schools, which we'll talk about our schools in a moment. But the first thing we got to do is we got to focus on community policing, reintegrating trust with law enforcement and transparency with law enforcement. We need better training and better social work at our law enforcement agencies. I spent 3,000 hours working for law enforcement. And when I walk into a briefing of 60 officers and I hear that only 2 are able to go to training because the department can't afford to train everyone, I'm not surprised we have problems. Folks, I just also had an interview with a SWAT officer, and he said that cops are frustrated right now. They want to enforce the laws, but because of things like AB 47, or Prop 47, less individuals, or essentially, excuse me here. This was written poorly. People are getting let out of jail even if they're violent offenders. And you know how that works? The laws that were written into place say that only nonviolent individuals are allowed to get out of jail. But guess what the SWAT officer told me? He told me, you know how the rule is actually written? It's written such that if you were a violent person who beat someone, you went to jail for beating somebody and then you got out. And then you went into a Walgreens in broad daylight and stole everything in the makeup aisle. Because you weren't violent in that Walgreens, you're deemed nonviolent and you go back out on the street with a ticket. Folks, is that the kind of criminal justice system we should have in California? No. Doesn't make sense. So how about, instead of running a broken criminal justice system with laws that don't make sense, we fix what's broken, and instead of defunding the police, we actually fund the police, we enforce the laws the way they're written, and we do it better with stronger community policing. Is that what we want? Yes. Our politician leaders have corrupted what would ordinarily function. You do a crime, you do the time. I'm going to fix this. We're going to ensure that we have the safest streets in California so we could actually show off the most beautiful streets of California and get more tourism to California, not less. Folks, consider this. Right now, we are paying $156,000 per year for people to sit in jails. $156,000 a year. Shouldn't we be focused on maybe figuring out how we can prevent people from going into jails as well? So we don't spend $156,000 a year. That would make sense, right? It would be reasonable. Well, consider this. If we actually educate our prisoners with future schools, maybe folks could actually get out of jail and look forward to a career rather than crime. How does that sound? People getting out of jail and being able to have a career. Because here's what happens if we don't do that. Status quo. The Chicago Medical Association used to hold all of their massive conventions for their medical association. It's big, Chicago, big area. They used to hold all their conventions in San Francisco. But after years of coming to San Francisco, seeing homelessness get worse and crime go unpunished, guess where they decided to go? Las Vegas. Taking their business to Las Vegas. I want to ask you, do we want to see our Californians going to Las Vegas, or do we want them here in California? I want to kick Texas and Vegas in the butt, and I want Californians here in California, and I want visitors to come to California. Now here's one. How many of you out there knew that I had billboards? Who's seen my billboards? Okay, one person, right? That's not a lot of people, right? You want to know why? Because you're not in California. They're in Texas. You know what they say? They say, send Californians back to California and vote for Meet Kevin and donate to Meet Kevin. Let's talk about future schools. My plan of future schools includes paying people $2,000 a month for individuals over 18 to go to a future school. Immediately people are like, wait a minute, is that universal basic income? No, $2,000 a month if you go to school. But not just any kind of school. Let's talk about this. It's $48,000 for 2 years, okay? We'll hold that number in the back of your mind. Future schools are going to combine college, trade school, high schools, and financial education. Folks at 16 will have the choice to go to these future schools as well. We won't pay 16 and 17-year-olds to go, but they'll have the choice. And so that way at 18, people who started at 16 will have the opportunity to graduate debt-free, for free, and with a career at 18. How does that sound? You know, I asked the other day in one of the rallies in Fresno, I asked, hey, how many people in the room have learned about options trading in school, in high school? And nobody raised their hand. And all of a sudden, one person raises their hand, and they say, oh, tell me, where? Please tell me, where have you learned options trading in school? She goes, oh, well, I'm actually from China. Come on, folks. All right, let me give you 3 examples here. Look. Here are 3 high-demand skills that future schools will teach, amongst many, many dozens of other opportunities that we're going to have. We'll actually provide licenses and skills and careers so people at 18 don't graduate wondering how many minimum wage jobs am I going to get to try to survive. A computer programmer in California makes $71,000 to $120,000 as a starting salary. Now, last time I said that, somebody came up to me afterwards and they're like, Kevin, you're wrong. It's actually $200,000. I'm like, okay, it's a lot of money. Okay, tell us where you work. An electrical engineer in California makes between $43,000 and $97,000 as a starting salary. Nurse in California between $57,000 and $91,000. Now, I want to ask you, do you think any of those 3 careers, any people in those 3 careers, are they on welfare, food stamps, or Medi-Cal? No. Are welfare, food stamps, and Medi-Cal expensive when 1/3 of Californians are on Medi-Cal? And so, wouldn't it sound like we would save more than $48,000 if people actually have careers when we can get people off with dignity and when they're ready off of Medi-Cal and welfare and food stamps because they actually have the skills and abilities to have a real career? $48,000 is less than 1/3 of what we spend on a prisoner in jail for 1 year. They went to future schools, they'd come out and have a career to look forward to. It saves us a lot of money. It sounds like a good investment to me. We'd make a lot of money back in California. But here's another thing. Did you know that California right now is ranked 40th in schooling? And I want to know, should the 5th largest economy in the world be in the bottom 20% of schools in this country? No. With me as your governor, we're going to fix that. We will reduce crime, poverty, end homelessness, end our mental health crisis. We're going to give people their dignity back. Do we want to give people their dignity back? The next thing that we got to do is we've got to make housing affordable. And that doesn't mean just plowing in and building new houses where there are already a lot of houses. There's plenty of land in California. Plenty of land. Median home price right now, though, in California is $800,000. How is somebody supposed to build wealth? Even if you get a wedge deal, you can't afford that. But folks, I want to know, why do we have a lack of affordable home options for people in California? Does anyone know why we don't have affordable homes in California or options for it? Does anyone know? Building regulations that mean we don't have enough homes in California. We have a lack of homes. Econ 101. I know Gavin Newsom was sleeping during it, but come on. The state of California builds just 80,000 new homes per year. Just to keep up with our housing needs, we should be building 300,000 homes per year. To get ahead, my proposal is making sure we can build 500,000 homes per year, housing units per year. Now, first thing people hear when they hear that is like, wait a minute, 500,000, where are you going to put 500,000 homes, Kevin? That's a lot. Well, did you know there are 482 cities in California? California is big. That's just about, on average, 1,000 homes per city. Obviously more in certain areas and less in others. But we accomplish that by increasing the efficiency of our building and safety department, speeding up approvals and speeding up the redevelopment of existing and unused commercial spaces that are rotting away that should be providing homes and spaces for people to live in. Folks, somebody, a heating and air person came over to me, came over to my house, and he goes, Kevin, I just lost another worker going to Arizona to start his own heating and air shop. I go, why? Kevin, we just want to replace broken furnaces. It's just not that hard. The furnace is already there. But now, our city, the particular city that I live in, and this hodgepodge is happening throughout the state of California, but just as an example, my city, which is now having different rules from everyone else, is saying in order to replace a furnace in an attic where there's already a 90-pound furnace there, in order to replace that furnace with people who weigh 150 to 230 pounds, not worried about the people going in, but worried about a 90-pound furnace, the city now says you have to submit engineering plans to the planning department and wait 6 weeks to get approval to replace the furnace. Does that make sense? No. Yet we license the engineer and we don't even give the engineer, the state of California licenses the engineer, tests the engineer, makes sure the engineer has insurance, but doesn't let the engineer sign off. Like, if you're going to have an engineer do it, let him come out there and sign off on it. Why have a bureaucrat spend 6 weeks deciding if that's okay? Makes no sense. So I want to ask you, when I mentioned the ceiling fan permit earlier, is it fair to wait 6 weeks to install a ceiling fan with a permit? It's ridiculous. So why don't we have enough housing? It's because the California government is in the way. It doesn't mean we want less safety. We want more safety, but we can have more safety and better standards in California by actually having a governor who leads. Here's an example. How about a state of emergency that instantly raises building standards a tiny little bit, makes all building standards uniform through the entire state of California so we can actually build homes immediately with one standard while still maintaining design for local areas, but design's not going to take more than a few days to verify, okay? It's not that hard. How about we actually have a governor that fixes the housing crisis and lets homes be built? Now, energy is also really important, but the cool thing is we can also build new communities that are net negative in California. We've got lots of sun, we've got lots of wind, but one of the problems we have is California is so broken, we could have solar and wind farms, but the California government can't figure out how to get transmission lines from those solar and wind farms to cities. So we have blackouts. So how about when we build new communities, we build those next to massive solar and wind farms to where we create net negative communities, and then when we build new roads connecting those communities to our big cities, we build the transmission lines under those new freeways. We can solve our problems in California, and we can end blackouts. Do we deserve a power grid that actually works? And so when we start fixing the things that are broken in California, and we start saving money by doing logical, common sense things, we stop wasting money, we do things like a common sense governor would do, we get rid of the income tax on the first $250,000. How about that? How about we actually make California competitive again, so people don't leave to Vegas and Florida and Texas, and they stay here? Another thing that we're going to do is we are going to legalize all gambling in California. Not just card rooms. We're going to work with the tribes. We're going to work with everybody, and we're going to actually build casinos. Because guess what I want? How does this sound? How does this sound right here? How about instead of people going to the Las Vegas Strip, they come to California strips with new casinos, new resorts, new restaurant, new entertainment, new jobs, and new revenues. Then people come and go, Kevin, but what about gambling addictions? Come on, man, gambling addictions. Well, here's an idea. Then how about you solve mental health problems and you solve gambling addictions instead of telling people how to live their lives? See, I just personally feel we need less of the government telling us how we want to live our lives or should live our lives. If people want to drive for Uber and they want to be a 1099 or a W-2, how about you just let them pick? So when we fix the problems in our state and when we make things better, there's something really special that I want to do, because right now we've got Florida that's really bothering me. I just went to Florida. Somebody came over to me and he's like, Kevin, I guess what we just did, we repaved our roads. The mayor of Miami is running billboards in San Francisco encouraging people to move to Florida. The mayor of Fort Lauderdale just signed a deal with Elon Musk to build tunnels in Fort Lauderdale. And we're like, oh, they're so close to the water table. They figure it out. You don't need excuses. You figure problems out. You solve things. Don't tell me it's not possible. Florida can do it. I know we can do it. But I told you I wanted to do something. Well, when we solve our problems and we start fixing our state, I'm going to start running billboards down in Miami. And they're going to be bigger than this mayor's. We're going to make California competitive again. See, here's the other thing. One of the reasons our taxes are so high is because we spend money on frivolous projects. You know, the high-speed rail, which is not going to help any of you here in San Diego. Okay? The high-speed rail is expected to cost $100 billion. If I took $100 billion just as a sample, I could waive income taxes for the first 3 years on all people making less than $250,000. That's how much money $100 billion is. Would you rather have 3 years of no state income tax or the high-speed rail that doesn't even help you solve a problem? Folks, the high-speed rail costs $125 million per mile. In hilly areas, it costs $200 million per mile. But because Gavin Newsom wants his choo-choo train, we're spending 10 to 20x on what we should for transportation because tunnels cost just $10 million a mile. And so we're going to build tunnels. We're going to build tunnels where we actually need them. Consider this. When we have traffic, we know where the traffic is. We know where the freeway interchanges are. We know where the traffic is. How about instead of building a train that isn't going to help the majority of Californians, how about instead of that, we build tunnels where we have a lot of traffic and we stop being the traffic capital of the world? How about tunnels that go in the direction of traffic? So variable style tunnels. They go one way with rush hour, then they go the other way with rush hour. It's easy to do. It's done throughout the world. It's not done in California. And then you make these tunnels optional toll roads because you're building them under existing freeways, which means there's no regressive taxation. It's an option. If you want the freeway, take the freeway. If you want the tunnel, take the tunnel. And when people pay the toll, it not only reimburses the cost of the tunnel, but it actually gives California the money it needs to start fixing its roads. And so let me ask you, what makes more sense? $125 million a mile building a choo-choo train in areas we don't need it, or $10 million a mile in tunnels where we actually need to solve traffic? Rail or tunnels? What makes more sense? Oh man, here's another good one. How about this? How many years do you think, because this is the argument we always hear, oh, but the high-speed rail isn't going to help the economy and the environment. I don't know. Folks, do you know how many years? Does anybody know how many years it's going to take the high-speed rail to break even economically and environmentally? Because it also, you get the little Caterpillar truck, well, the big Caterpillar trucks building train tracks, that puts out a lot of diesel into the environment. It's a big environmental cost to build this stuff. How many years is it going to take to economically and environmentally break even on the high-speed rail? Over 70 years to break even. That's ridiculous. That's not a return on your investment. That's hopefully if the thing doesn't break down, maybe one day in 71 years, our kids will get a return on their money, maybe. So at the same time, contractors who are working on the high-speed rail, one particular who's Dianne Feinstein's husband, is donating to Gavin Newsom's campaign. You know what else is intolerable? It's fires. How about we follow the advice of CAL FIRE and actually properly fund CAL FIRE and fix and prevent wildfires? Preventing wildfires with controlled burns, which are actually better for our environment because we can control them, we do them in smaller areas, we can protect endangered species. Controlled burns cost $32 an acre. Fighting wildfires costs $1,500 an acre. Folks, what makes more sense, $1,500 an acre or $32 an acre? Now, controlled burns are a smart thing to do. Here's the thing. I'll tell a short story here. At the end of 2017, I received one of those emergency alerts on my phone, one of those Amber Alert things. I had like 4 hours of sleep that day, and I had just fallen asleep. And the last thing you want is an Amber Alert when you have 4 hours of sleep waking you up. I wasn't very happy. I was pretty annoyed, quickly silenced my phone, went back to sleep. Lauren said it was something about fires, and I'm like, fires, come on. We've become so numb to fires. Like, just let me sleep. So about 10 minutes later, another alert came through. This time, I got pretty angry because I literally just fell asleep again. Lauren said, no, this is serious. Come on. It's just more clickbait. Come on, Lauren. So I get up, go to the bathroom, which is where we have a window to the entire hillside. And I grab the little cord, and I look back at Lauren. Come on, Amber Alert, this is a joke. I pull the cord. The entire hillside is orange. It's engulfed in flames outside my window. The fire was moving very fast. clients that I sold property to lost their homes in this fire. Firefighters lost their lives in this fire. And at the same time, not to mention the PTSD many of our Venturans went through in this Thomas fire, NPR, a publication which leans slightly left, always good to check the bias of your publications, so leans slightly left. At the same time, fires like this are happening. NPR just released an expose on Governor Gavin Newsom saying, Governor Gavin Newsom misleads California, overstating his fire prevention work by 690%. Folks, is that right? Is it right to be the governor and say you're going to fix the fire crisis we have and then overstate the actual work you did by 690%? I didn't even get 690% on AMC, okay? Come on. So we're going to remember, we got to stop wasting our money. We got to bring honesty back to California. Makes sense. People are leaving. My friends just left me to Vegas. But you know what? And tell me what you think about this. Instead of leaving, I'm not leaving. I'm going to fix California instead, and together we're going to fix schooling, we're going to fix homelessness, we're going to end people dying on our streets, we are going to fix crime, fix traffic, and stop wasting money so we can eventually lower our taxes because we deserve that. How does that sound? Now, if you've liked what you heard, you can always help the campaign. If you know somebody who wants to be interviewed by the campaign, somebody in a position, whether they're a firefighter or a teacher or a union steward, whatever, send us an email. Email us at staff@meetkevin.com. Say interview request in the subject. If you want to volunteer, send us an email. We've got a large database of folks who want to help, so when we start doing flyer distribution or whatever, or events, we can send you an email. So send an email to staff@meetkevin.com. The other thing you can do to help us beat Gavin Newsom is you can go to meetkevin.com/donate and help support the campaign. Average donation is about $75. Any donation helps. We're up against big donations from Gavin Newsom. But the most important question I have for you is on September 14th, or before that with your mail-in ballot, can I count on you, San Diego, to vote yes on recall and yes on Meet Kevin Paffrath for governor?